You gave me so much hope because I was in a meeting last week and it stuck with me. I'm trying to let it go, but I had the first person that knew about my objectives and my long-term, my dream, I call it. And they're like, you're doing too many things. And it's like, it's not possible. It was the first person to shit on my dream. And a lot of people know about it because I'm sure some of them think I'm a little crazy because it's really bigger than most people can imagine, which is exactly what you said you did. You knew what the finish line was. The how doesn't matter as much. You figured out, and the universe delivered what you needed to continue to grow. And it's funny because 100 people might be supportive of me, but that one person, it's still irking me.
Wow.
And
well, that's the universe testing you.
Yeah, I guess it's sitting with me. So you just made me feel really better about that. So maybe you're the universe delivering me you to fix me a little on that one.
I've had plenty of people since before day one say, that's not sustainable. You won't have insurance. What are you thinking? You've been with Verizon forever. Why are you doing this? I didn't have people saying, you got this, go for it, live your dreams. No. So I found a few people who literally did believe in my dreams, and I only shared it with them. And that's very, very key. I only shared my vision and dreams with them and no one else. Not family, not friends, only certain friends and certain people. And that's it. And it was very private. And when I made the move, people were like, whoa. Even Verizon was like, whoa. So, and I could have failed, and I did fail in some ways, but I'm resilient and I'm a recovery warrior. And I've been through so much that whatever this entrepreneurial journey is going to throw at me, no problem. And that's how we have to treat this, that we can use our adversities as strengths so that when we start to get, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to feed my family? How is that going to happen? You trust, you make a plan, you act on that plan. And if it doesn't work, you ask for help, you pivot, you reach out to a coach, you get a mentor. And so that's what happens. And when people come in your life, I've had it my whole life because like I said, I'm a highly sensitive person. So I confused that as a child as being shy. So people would constantly say, you're so shy. And I had a million things to say. It was because I was always observing as the empath. I was always taking in and observing and absorbing. And sometimes to a fault, because I didn't know that I even had that. I didn't even know I had that ability. But once I learned what it really was, that it was a superpower, I started to use it as a strength. And that's how I was able to really help people, work with people through therapy, work with people with coaching, all these different ways. But people are always going to be put in your path. I have a book, okay, called Smash Your Comfort Zone with Cold Showers. It's been on Amazon for 2 years. And I got my first 1-star review recently. And if you're listening and you have that 1-star review, thank you so much. Because those are gifts. Because instead of reading and going, well, they didn't even read my book, who is them? Which was my first ego response. But after, I was like, you know what? This is the greatest gift, this review, because it shows me what's still unhealed in me. So these things, these obstacles, these people that we go, oh, I can't stand, they hurt, it's like they're there for a reason because it's testing your resilience. It's testing the stuff that you haven't. I have a mentor who says, what is in the way is the way. What is in the way is the way. And I love that because a lot of times that's what it is. And we have to sometimes go there. And, 2020 was a really good year for healing some of this deeper shadow trauma stuff for people. And I went there as well. And going there is where I really, and financially, it was this tough year for me. For some people, I had the best year of life. I actually had a really good year overall, but I spent so much time doing self-care that actually impacted me financially in the beginning. But now that I practiced that self-care for 3-4 months, very, very, very long stints of self-care daily, I was able to then now reap those rewards of the self-care today, as I'm venturing out, about to release a book, and the work that is behind that self-care paid dividends for today. And I'm still doing self-care. But what I'm saying is, like, those, you can call them haters if you want, but a lot of they're really gifts. They're really a reflection of ourselves. And, so don't let it knock you. Just say, oh my God, thank you so much for that. And then move on and realize the gift that it served you. Because if it's still there, it's a resentment, it's an unhealed wound. And once we realize that that's actually, oh my God, actually, that's a gift. That's a mirror of something inside of me of not feeling worthy of greatness and success.
Ooh, that was very good. Thank you. You're 100% right. I should look at it that way. And I also should know better, which is another, I guess, gift of my own learning and development. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, I probably could coach you on that. But when it comes to coaching myself, sometimes it's not good. Yeah. So I guess that brings me to the next point of, you keep mentioning coaches and mentors, and I am a big fan of that. And you said that when you were in Verizon was the first time you hired a life coach. So what did that look like? Like, what inspired you to do that? And what does that journey look like, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. So what that was, so it was 2015, and I had just thought about getting into a manager position at Verizon, assistant manager. And I never wanted to do that. I couldn't stand that position, but things change. And I had this idea of, like, you know what? I literally, for me, it's all about intuition. Like, I trust my intuition. And so my intuition was basically like, out of nowhere. And that's how intuition works. It's an instant answer, instant information. And it was like, hey, you remember that guy you followed way back then who was the health coach? He had a coach. And I'm like, why did I just get that message? Like, okay. And then I'm like, oh, well, what are life coaches? Let me just look that up. And I Google searched life coaching, and the top result, I clicked on the link, and I literally just scheduled a consultation to talk to someone. Next thing, I'm on the phone, and the guy's like, yeah, we're going to have 3 coaches reach out to you, and you get to see which one fits best with you. And if it works out, it works out. I'm like, okay. And then I talked to these 3 coaches, and one of them was Christy, and she was freaking amazing to talk to. And I'm like, I'm going to go for it. Like, I can afford this. I got a job. I'm going to hire this life coach. And it didn't make any sense. I was at a job. I was trying to get into assistant manager position, and I started working with Christy. And what I do with Christy is I started setting goals. Like, I was always setting goals, but bigger goals, like bigger goals. And so she would hold me accountable to my goals. I didn't have to share with a sponsor, a mentor. I shared with the coach, and the coach would check in with me. Okay, how'd it go? What happened? What'd you learn? And so I started hitting all these goals. So I'd be like, I'm going to set this financial goal. I'd hit the goal. I'm going to set this sale. I hit the goal. I'm going to do this. I hit the goal. And then and when I started hitting bigger goals, rocking my foundation goals, like winning the highest award at Verizon, it's called President's Cabinet. When I won that award, I was like, this is real. Like, I didn't even know that is this even real? Like, I'm literally just being intentional, setting goals, practicing my spirituality, do what I do, but I'm really intentional about my goals. I focus on them every day, and they're happening. So I just kept doing that. And then 2 years later, I left my job because I just said to Christy, I'm like, Christy, what if I left my job? What would that mean? What would happen? And she didn't go, Jesse, you just landed your dream job. You're making now 6 figures. Why would you? She didn't say that. She goes, yeah, let's talk about what that would look like. Because that's what a coach does. And so I ended up saying this extreme goal. I'm like, hey, it's March. By August, I'm leaving everything and I'm becoming an entrepreneur in recovery. And she was like, cool, let's map that out. And I did it. So coaches come in all shapes and forms. If you're in early recovery, which I wasn't at that point, I was 13, 12 years into recovery. So if you're in early recovery and you're thinking about a coach, that's a great idea, because you could hire a recovery coach and they can help you with recovery, but they can also help you with goals. So look for a recovery coach in early recovery. But if you're a little farther along the way, you might just look for a life coach. And they might even have experience with recovery. This person didn't, but she was just an incredible coach. And so, look at recovery coaching, and then eventually you might just hire another coach for a specific need. Maybe you're like, okay, I got some time under my belt with recovery, and now I want to start this clothing line, and I want to hire someone as a coach who's going to help me to build the clothing line. So you hire coaches specifically for what you're needing. And if in the early days of recovery, look at recovery coaches, because that's just an amazing, really expanding segment that's really getting big. And it's really amazing. And I'm part of a coach training company called the International Association of Professional Recovery Coaches. And so if someone wants to learn more about that and they want to hire a coach, or just reach out to me, I can put you in touch with a coach there or whatever. So that's
awesome. I want to call out, two things that you said. For the folks that may not be addiction related listening, but are in the coaching space, because coaching is so important. I think it's life-changing, which you kind of described too, right? Career and all of that. But I like what that company or that group of people, Christy's team, from a business strategy, it's brilliant to offer the clients 3 different people to choose from, instead of it being this one-man band that kind of, it's their way. So I like that you get to shop for it in that model. So if there's people out there thinking about that, I just thought that was great.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
One of the ways, how there's categories like faith-based entrepreneurs, for example. So it's a lot of people that are, doing it's a bucket. Sure. One of the things, I love this because I didn't know you existed until like a week ago. So I love that I can see
you have social media. You just found me, and then you just reach out, and I said yes. It's so cool.
I know, it's beautiful. Nobody has to be a stranger ever. But I was saying in some of the classes that I was getting coached in, I want this category to be I want recovering entrepreneurs to be a category, and fall off the mouth the same way that faith-based entrepreneurs is a thing. I want recovery-based entrepreneurs, and you're already doing it. So I think that that's just awesome. I do have a question about your actual journey. Did you start with 12 steps, or what did your recovery look like, if you don't mind sharing? What were some of your strategies? I understand the self-care and all that stuff that kind of comes a little later, but in the beginning, when we're white knuckling it and just trying to not do the thing, what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So to just bring it back to being 22 again, I didn't just go lightly. I got arrested. So I got arrested with federal charges. And so when that happened, the judge and the pretrial probation officer said that you have to go to meetings as part of the deal. So I was court ordered to go to meetings. So they handed me a paper and they said, you got to go to these meetings. And so that's what I did. But I had a therapist too that was court ordered therapy. And so I went to this drug and alcohol therapist. I also ended up getting a mentor too. And when I say I got a mentor, so they thought I would be suicidal in the early days. So my mom knew this pastor of a church. So I actually would go and meet with this pastor who became a mentor. And I would ask him life's questions. I grew up without a father. So I had a hard time trusting men because my dad left at 4, never came back. So when I had this man in my life sharing and being a mentor, that was huge. So I had this therapist, court-ordered therapist. I had this mentor, and I also had these meetings I had to go to. It wasn't an option. So I'd have to get the paper signed, show the pre-trial probation officer. Well, what started to happen is I started getting active in those meetings, right? I started to make the coffee. I started to do everything I could. And I also, was doing all these habits. And that's what's really key to this. I was doing self-care right away. I was in bad shape. If you saw me 15 years ago, like most of us when we first came in, I was in bad shape. So I was journaling every day. I was repeating affirmations because my anxiety and panic attacks were so severe. I didn't know how to stop them. So I thought maybe my powerful words would stop them. And so that was the prescription for my recovery, was those things in the early days. And eventually when I found out I wasn't going to prison, then I got back into school too, because I flunked out of school. I went at 18, and that's when addiction really took over. Well, it was a rough go at 18, and then I flunked out of school. I went back to school and I started to take courses and psychology, and eventually it took me 9 years to get my degrees. But it's all good. It was all part of the journey. But that's what it was like in the early days, those habits and practices, which I talk about in detail in my book, because I didn't want to just be like, here's the entrepreneur's recovery guide. Like, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to help that person who's 1 week from shooting fentanyl. I'm here to help that person who's just getting over pornography addiction. Like, I'm here to help people who are getting over panic disorder. This is a book that is giving you exactly what I did step by step. And that's what I wish I had. I wish someone had given me that book. Would I have read it in the beginning and it would have been really profound? I don't know, but eventually it would have been. Yes. At like 9 months or a year. Yeah. A book like that would have really helped. So I'm just filling a gap that I wish it was there for me, with these things that I learned.
So you keep mentioning lots of addictions. So you're not tied to just drugs and alcohol per se. It sounds like you touch whatever, behavioral and substance abuse. Am I clear on that?
Yeah. And mental health. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. That's awesome. Is there anything I'm forgetting to ask you that you'd like to share?
No, I think you've asked incredible questions, and I've been on a lot of different shows and podcasts, and you ask questions no one's ever asked before. So the way you're doing this podcast and the way you're asking questions, continue to do it like this, because I said things I've never said in the way I said them because of the way you asked, especially about the entrepreneur questions and stuff and the way you frame those. So no, I think we're pretty complete, actually.
Wow. Thank you. That's a huge compliment. Whatever shows up is what falls out of my mouth. It's kind of how it happens. Like you said, that intuition. And you're a great guest that just, like I said, I'm just so fascinated and honored that you responded. Like you said, you answer your messages and you answered timely and were so easy. So I know that you're all in. You're not just a talker, you're in action, and your story is so profound, and I can't wait to help you blow up your book. I'll be shouting it from the rooftops. And your friends too, when we go through and do the editing and stuff, we'll make sure that we get your friend's gambling book down as well. I'd like to showcase that as a resource.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Michael Dash, Chasing the High. So that's just one more time for the recording.
Perfect. Now I can cheat and write it down.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you so much.